You can't just park there. That's my ramp. I shouted, slamming my hand against the side of her black SUV, the metal still warm from the sun. My voice cracked from the strain, not because I was weak, but because I was furious. Oh, come on, Margaret, she groaned, rolling her designer sunglasses up over her head like she was the one being inconvenienced. It's just for a minute. I have groceries, and I'm not hauling them in from the street just because you want to play victim in a wheelchair. I swear, my blood turned to fire. I wheeled myself closer, the rubber on my chair's tires squealing against the pavement. This ramp was installed so I could live here in peace. You block it every time you don't feel like walking an extra 10 feet. You know I can't get in the house when you do that. She snorted. Snorted. Like it was a joke. You can wait 5 minutes, Margaret. You're always sitting down anyway, so what's the rush? Her smile curled like smoke, mocking, dismissive. That was when I saw red. I pointed my finger at her, hand trembling, not from weakness, but from rage. I built this house. I raised my son here. And I didn't fight through back surgery, rehab, and losing the use of my legs just to be humiliated on my own front lawn. Oh my God, drama queen, she scoffed, popping her trunk like she didn't even hear me. No one's humiliating you. You're just mad that things don't revolve around you anymore. Newsflash, this isn't your kingdom, and I'm not one of your little servants. I laughed bitterly. Oh, no, sweetheart. You're not a servant. You're a guest. And guests don't act like they own the house. She spun around fast, a bag of groceries clutched tight in her French manicured hands. A guest? Excuse me? I'm family. Your son married me. And I'm starting to wonder what he ever saw in you, I snapped, tired of biting my tongue. Because if he knew the way you spoke to me when he wasn't around. She dropped the grocery bag on the ground. Crash. The milk exploded. Oranges bounced and rolled toward the gutter. Don't you dare, she hissed, stepping forward, now toe-to-toe with my front wheels. You think just because you're old and disabled, you get to guilt-trip everyone around you? You think we owe you something because you're in that chair? Her finger jabbed toward me, too close to my face. I flinched but held steady. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. We moved in here to help you. But you've turned this house into a prison. You complain about the stairs, the food, the thermostat, everything. Because this is still my home, I spat, voice shaking now with something worse than rage, pain. And I don't need your help. I never asked for it. You moved in because your rent went up and your lifestyle couldn't keep up with your spending. Her eyes flared. You ungrateful. Ungrateful? I cut her off, laughing bitterly. I gave up my bedroom for you too. I paid the down payment on your wedding. And I kept this house running even when my legs gave out. You think I sit here all day for fun? She looked at me like I was a burden, like I was something broken that needed throwing out. You're just bitter, she finally muttered, grabbing her purse from the front seat. You hate that your son finally chose me. You hate that you're not the center of his world anymore. No, I said, softer now, but still burning inside. I hate that he can't see how cruel you are. How you smile in his face and mock me behind his back. I hate that he doesn't know who he married. She tilted her head, a smirk creeping back into her lips. And what? You think he'll suddenly take your side if you tattle like a toddler? He knows I'm the one who cooks for him. Sleeps beside him. Gives him a life he actually enjoys. I leaned forward, my voice like steel. Then I hope you enjoyed that life while it lasted. That stopped her. For a second, she blinked, confused. What's that supposed to mean? I didn't answer. Not yet. But I saw the tiniest flicker of fear flash in her eyes, like she knew something was coming, but couldn't put her finger on it. Instead, I reached down and pressed the emergency call button attached to my chair. It beeped loud, echoing through the driveway. You think I don't have ways to fight back? I said quietly. You thought I'd just sit here, helpless, while you parked over the only way I can enter my home? Well, guess what, this chair comes with more than wheels. It comes with witnesses. She turned, realizing for the first time that the neighbor across the street, old Mr. Franklin, was standing on his porch with his phone out, recording everything. His granddaughter beside him. They both looked furious. She swallowed hard. Then the unmistakable whoop of a patrol car turned the corner. I didn't call the cops, she began, defensive now. Didn't have to, I said, wheeling back slowly as the officer stepped out. And just as she turned to face them, thinking she could talk her way out of anything, her phone buzzed. One glance at the screen, and her face drained of color. Because the real news? The one she never saw coming? It wasn't from me, it was from someone she thought was on her side. And this time, her SUV wasn't the only thing blocking my way. It was her pride. But that was about to come crashing down. Hard. And I was finally going to have a front row seat. It wasn't always like this. You don't just wake up one day and find out your daughter-in-law hates your guts. No, that kind of resentment simmers. It hides in politeness, in fake smiles, in "Do you need anything, Mom?" said through gritted teeth. When Thomas brought her home, all bright lipstick and expensive perfume, I kept quiet. Not because I liked her, but because he loved her. And I've spent my whole life putting other people's comfort above my own. My husband passed when Thomas was only 12. Since then, it's just been me and my boy. I carried him through everything, scraped knees, lost jobs, heartbreaks. So when he said, "She's the one, Mom," I swallowed every warning bell in my gut and nodded. "She's lovely, Thomas," I had said. I even smiled. And on the day of their wedding, I wore the dress she picked for me. Pale beige, her favorite. It washed me out and made me look like a ghost, but I wore it anyway. Because I thought maybe if I gave enough, she'd meet me halfway. I was wrong. It started small. A sideways glance when I asked to turn the heat up. Snide comments about how my old recliner made the living room look outdated. But I kept the peace. Because that's what mothers do, right? We don't want to be a burden. I gave them the master bedroom when she said the guest room was too cramped. I moved my bed into the den, a space not meant for sleeping, let alone living. But I managed. Then came the fall. One missed step. One wet tile. And my legs were never the same again. The doctors called it degenerative. Said the damage had been there for years, and that one accident was enough to make it permanent. I could move, but not the way I used to. I needed support. A chair. Ramps. Rails. Independence, but with adjustments. Thomas didn't hesitate. He kissed my forehead in the hospital and said, "You're coming home. We'll make it work." And for a little while I believed that. But she didn't smile. Not even once. She fought every change. Said the ramp would make the house look institutional. Complained about the beeping sound of the lift every time it lowered me from the porch. Hated the grab bars in the bathroom. Called it all ugly. Said it was like living in a hospital. "You're not the only one who lives here," she'd snap, slamming the cabinet shut when I asked for a lower shelf. "This is my home too." But that's the thing. It was never her home. It was mine. Mine and Thomas's. And I never asked her to give up anything, I just needed to keep surviving. I cooked when I could. Cleaned when my arms weren't shaking. I kept trying to show her I wasn't in the way. But every smile I offered was ignored. Every gesture I made was met with rolled eyes. Until the day she blocked the ramp for the first time. That was the beginning of the end. I remember it like a slap. I had got out early for a hospital checkup. Took the medical shuttle. It was tiring, hours of waiting, endless tests. When I finally got home, her SUV was parked directly across the ramp. Not beside it. Not near it. Across it. I called her. She didn't answer. I called Thomas. He was at work. I waited in the sun for 45 minutes, sweating, my spine screaming, until a neighbor helped me up the steps one by one. When she came back, she laughed. "Oh, you're mad about that," she said, sipping iced coffee. "Well, next time, maybe leave a note." I didn't say anything that day. But I didn't forget. And after that, it got worse. She'd play it off like accidents, but I could see it, the way she looked at my chair like it was competition. Like it was louder than her. More important than her. She wanted me to disappear. But I didn't disappear. Instead, I started keeping notes. Not the passive-aggressive kind, the legal kind. I recorded conversations. I took photos. I documented the blocked ramp incidents. I logged every time she left me alone without access to food, or power, or even my medication. All while she thought I was just knitting in the corner. I even got the neighbors involved. Mr. Franklin across the street saw everything. So did his granddaughter, Tessa. She used to come by and say, "You okay, Mrs. Ellsworth?" And I'd say, "Just tired." But she knew better. The worst part wasn't the cruelty. It was watching Thomas miss it all. He'd walk in at the end of the day, throw his arms around her, kiss her cheek, while I sat quietly in the den, pretending I didn't hear her laughing about me under her breath. But I wasn't going to be quiet forever. Because that morning? When she blocked my ramp again and mocked me like I was some obstacle in her house? That was the same day a letter arrived. From the attorney's office. The one handling the title transfer of the property, the very property she assumed would be passed to her and Thomas. And the funny thing is, I had made some changes to my will. Big ones. And I wasn't the only one who knew anymore. Because sometimes, karma doesn't knock. Sometimes, it parks itself across your ramp and waits for the right moment to explode. And mine was just around the corner. The knock on the door came at exactly 10 a.m. She was in the kitchen, talking to one of her friends on speakerphone. Loud laughter, bragging about some yoga retreat she was going on, paid for, of course, by Thomas's bonus. I wheeled myself toward the front door as she rolled her eyes dramatically, pretending not to notice. She hated when I had visitors. She always acted like they were interrupting her day, as if the house revolved around her schedule. But this wasn't a social visit. No coffee. No pleasantries. Just a man in a charcoal gray suit holding a sealed envelope with my full name typed neatly on the front. "Mrs. Ellsworth?" he asked. I nodded. "Yes. I'm here on behalf of Jarvis, Lang and Wyatt. Your updates have been processed and filed with the registry. I'm just delivering confirmation and a few follow-ups for your records." Her voice traveled like a dagger from the kitchen. "What updates?" She appeared in the doorway, fake smile plastered on her face, arms folded, head tilted like a predator pretending to be polite. The man didn't even blink. He handed me the envelope, tipped his head respectfully, and left. I didn't say anything right away. I just held the envelope in my lap like it was a fire I was keeping warm for later. She stood there, arms still folded. "Are you going to tell me what that was about, or are we just doing cryptic mail deliveries now?" I looked her right in the eye and said, "Property business." Her face dropped, but only for a second. She recovered fast, she always did. "You mean our property?" I laughed. Quiet at first. Then louder. "Oh, sweetheart," I said, "I've been letting you live in my house like it was yours for too long. But that ends now." She stormed off, muttering something under her breath about crazy old women, and I didn't stop her. I just let her sit with it. I let the weight of uncertainty stew in her chest for once, the same way she made me stew every time I was locked out, ignored, humiliated. Later that afternoon, she tried to turn Thomas against me. I heard her whispering when he got home, spinning stories, dripping poison into his ears like she always did. I heard, "She's losing it, Thomas," and "She's doing things behind our backs," and even, "She's going to screw up everything we've built." Everything we built? My blood boiled. I didn't say anything until dinner. Thomas sat at the head of the table, fork in hand, still half listening to her. She was ranting, dramatizing like she always did, eyes wide with manufactured concern. Finally, I placed the envelope on the table. "What's that?" he asked. "Something your wife should have thought about before she decided to make my life hell." He blinked. She stiffened. I pushed it closer to him. "Open it." He did. And the color drained from her face before he even finished reading. It was all there. The revised deed transfer. The trust documents. The clause that granted exclusive ownership of the house to me, with clear instructions that she was not to inherit a single square foot of it. Not now. Not ever. "You changed the will," he said, confused. I nodded. "Not just the will. The ownership. The house is in a trust now. You and I are on it, and her name has been legally removed." She stood up so fast her chair nearly tipped. "You can't do that. You can't just erase me." I looked up at her, calm but solid. "You erased yourself. Every time you slammed a door. Every time you parked across that ramp. Every time you pretended I didn't exist. This house protected you, and you treated it like a stage to mock me on. I may be old, but I'm not stupid." Thomas looked between us, stunned. "Mom, why didn't you tell me?" "Because you wouldn't have believed me," I said softly. "But maybe now you'll start paying attention." She tried to scream, to argue, but the document spoke louder than she ever could. And then I said the one thing that shut the entire room down. "You want me gone so bad? You better start packing. Because now, legally, you don't live here." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I'd never seen her speechless before. It was beautiful. She stormed out. Slammed the front door behind her. Seconds later, her SUV engine roared and she peeled off down the road like a tantrum on wheels. I didn't chase her. I didn't shout after her. I just sat at the table, next to my son, and finally, for the first time in years, breathed freely in my own home. He didn't say much that night. I think he was still processing it all. But before he went upstairs, he came to me. Put a hand on my shoulder. "I should have seen it, Mom. I'm sorry." I smiled through tears. "It's not too late. Now you do see it." And what he did next. That changed everything. The next morning, I didn't hear the usual clatter of heels down the hallway or the screech of her voice barking orders like some self-appointed queen. The house was quiet. Almost too quiet. I thought for a second that maybe she'd left for good. But no. She was in the living room, arms folded, suitcase beside her, not packed to leave, but packed to make a point. She was waiting for Thomas to come down and beg her to stay. Her plan was simple: cry a little, lie a lot, and play the victim like she always did. Only this time, he didn't fall for it. Thomas came down the stairs slowly, still in his pajamas, hair disheveled from a sleepless night. His eyes met mine first. And I saw something there I hadn't seen in years: clarity. He walked right past her and into the kitchen. No hug. No good morning. Nothing. She trailed after him like a shadow, desperate not to be left behind. "Thomas," she started, voice trembling in that rehearsed, pitiful way she used on strangers. "I think your mother is going through something. We need to talk to a lawyer. She's not well." He didn't look at her. Instead, he said, "You know, for the longest time, I thought Mom was exaggerating. I told myself she was just sensitive. That maybe the tension was mutual. But yesterday?" He finally turned around. "Yesterday, I saw you. I saw the real you. And I'm ashamed I let it get this far." She blinked like she'd been slapped. "Excuse me?" "You humiliated her. 4 years. Mocked her wheelchair ramp like it was some inconvenience to your design aesthetic. Trapped her inside her own house. You laughed when she cried. You rolled your eyes when she asked for help. You made her feel small, and you used me to do it. She stepped back like the room was tilting. You're taking her side? No, he said. I'm finally seeing there was only ever one side, and I was too cowardly to pick it. She started sobbing. The kind of sobs that shake the room, but not the heart. She was crying for herself, not for anything she did. You're choosing her over your wife? He didn't yell. He just said it like it was fact. I'm choosing what's right. She lunged toward him, grabbing his arm. You can't do this. I built this life with you. I supported your career, I hosted your colleagues, He pulled his arm away. You supported yourself. You threw dinner parties for people I barely liked, just to look like you belonged to some elite club. You never supported me. You tolerated me. Big difference. Her mascara started running. She looked to me, as if expecting I'd step in and rescue her. As if I'd let her cry her way back to power. I didn't move. I just sat there in my chair, watching justice, slow and quiet, finally roll in. Thomas opened the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and leaned against the counter. I already spoke to a lawyer, he said flatly. The documents are legit. You've got no claim on this house. But I'm your wife. And that title doesn't come with immunity, he said. You've used it like a shield to excuse everything. Not anymore. There was a silence after that. Not the awkward kind, the powerful kind. The kind where you can feel something has finally snapped. She turned toward me one last time, venom in her voice. You really think you've won? You think you'll get to sit here like some queen while I get tossed out? I finally answered. No. I don't think I've won. I think I survived. And now you get to see what it feels like to be powerless in a house where you once ruled. She picked up her suitcase and stormed out, for real this time. But just before she reached the door, I spoke again, softer this time. Don't forget to move your SUV. The ramp's going to get used again. She didn't answer. Didn't look back. Just slammed the door behind her, her signature exit. And for the first time in years, I heard birds outside the window. I heard peace. Later that day, Thomas helped me into the garden. He cleaned the ramp himself, hands covered in grease and dirt, but he didn't complain. He even added a little handrail I'd been asking for since last year. As I sat under the sun, watching the wind move through the trees, he pulled up a chair beside me. You don't have to forgive me, he said, looking down at his hands. I placed mine over his. You don't need forgiveness. You woke up. That's what matters. He smiled. Not a big one. But a real one. It's been 4 months since she left. 4 quiet, blessed, healing months. And you know what? The silence doesn't feel empty anymore, it feels earned. Thomas has changed more in these few weeks than he did in all the years of their marriage. He's present. He's attentive. He's the son I remember raising, the one who used to fix my radio with a screwdriver and a grin, who used to sit with me on the porch just to watch the sunset. It took time, yes. And pain. But sometimes pain is the only language that pride understands. He apologized every day for the first 2 weeks. Sometimes in words, mostly in actions. He fixed more than just the ramp, he fixed me. Not by undoing what she did, because that's not how life works. But by standing between me and that kind of cruelty again. By showing up. By choosing me. He still blames himself for not seeing it sooner. For letting love blind him to the venom that sat beside him every night, smiling with perfect teeth while twisting the knife under the table. But I don't blame him. I blame the kind of people who think kindness is weakness. Who mistake silence for surrender. She's not doing well, by the way. The news traveled fast, the SUV repoed, the landlord evicting her from the rental she thought she'd charm her way into for free, her so-called friends disappearing like smoke the minute the spotlight moved. And still, not once has she called to apologize. That part didn't surprise me. Some people carry pride like a life jacket. They'd rather drown than admit they were wrong. But this story isn't about her anymore. It's about what happens when someone who's been silenced finally speaks. It's about the ramp she blocked, the freedom she mocked, and the dignity she tried to erase. See, she thought she was just being petty. Just claiming power. But what she really did was reveal herself. And when you finally see someone's true face, you can never unsee it again. I've started volunteering now. At the community center. Helping other people with mobility challenges file complaints, get access, fight for the basic rights we're so often denied. Funny how something as simple as a ramp can become a symbol. A symbol of who gets to move forward, and who tries to stand in the way. I share my story now. Not for pity. But for proof. Proof that no matter how invisible someone tries to make you feel, your voice still matters. Your dignity still matters. And one day, if you stand firm, you will be heard. Thomas comes with me sometimes. Carries the files. Holds the door open. He told me last week, I used to think you were just tough. But now I see you were fighting alone. I looked at him and said, not anymore. So to anyone listening who's ever been mocked, pushed aside, underestimated, hear me. They may laugh at your pain, they may block your ramp, literally or figuratively, but your worth isn't theirs to measure. And your future? It's not theirs to steal. Sometimes, justice comes not in courtrooms or headlines, but in quiet mornings. In sons who finally open their eyes. In ramps that stay clear. In peace that finally stays. Because when you've been through the fire, and you don't let it burn your spirit, you come out stronger. Cleaner. Brighter. I'm not just a mother-in-law in a wheelchair. I'm a woman who survived being dismissed, disrespected, and discarded, and still came out with her soul intact. And the one who mocked me? She lost everything the moment she thought I was too weak to fight back.